Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to another video, guys. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my full in-depth review of the Back 4 Blood beta. The Back 4 Blood beta has now concluded and is now in the past, and so now we are just waiting for the full launch of the game coming out in October. And I personally am very excited, and in my humble opinion, the beta was a massive step up in comparison to the alpha back in December of last year. The beta brought so many great things, but however though, there was some bad stuff that I do want to address here in today's video. I will be reviewing the beta by categorizing into 3 separate areas, which is going to end up being the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Because there were some things in the Back 4 Blood beta that were extremely good, there were some things that were decently bad, but can be better. And then there's just stuff that is downright ugly and has to be fixed for the full game, or the game will just die. Like, it will literally just die. But that's just my humble opinion. Feel free to let me know what your guys' opinion about the beta was down below in the comment section. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know. I am just very much curious, guys. But anyways, guys, before we do begin, all I do want to just mention really quickly is that if you guys just simply happen to enjoy, please drop a like. And Turtle Rock, if you do happen to be watching this video, just know that this is going to be my honest thoughts and opinions about your game for the sake of the fact that I want to see it get better and be able to improve by the time that the launch ends up happening. So please understand that everything I'm saying comes out of love and is not meant to just crap on the game. I will give you credit where credit is due, but however though, if there is something that does need to be changed, I will give you my opinion about it in the fullest extent. But yeah, guys, let's review now the Back 4 Blood beta. Alright, so the Back 4 Blood beta, what were some of the things that I personally really liked about the beta? Well, the first thing I want to mention is that I really enjoyed the story. For the atmosphere about this game, for the way that they're trying to portray this game, I really do like the new concept that they're trying to put. Because in the original Left 4 Dead games, you were a survivor trying to fight for your life to try to escape and end up getting to a military or extraction zone. That was the end goal of all the Left 4 Dead maps. But however though, in Back 4 Blood, they end up having a similar idea, but with a slight twist. You are that group that goes and saves people, and you are doing that throughout these missions. That's literally what the objectives are. You know, you're going to areas and trying to liberate them, or trying to save people, or just trying to stop zombies from getting in to the main habitats of the survivors. And so there is a lot of kind of like a yin-yang here with it. Like, you know, you still feel like that you are in danger. You still feel like that you're the ones trying to escape, because, you know, they're just generally running around trying to kill zombies, and there's no guarantee of your safety or even your survival. And so it still feels very much like Left 4 Dead, but you, in the story, through the dialogue and just throughout the gameplay and the way that the missions proceed, you know that you are the ones that are more rather doing the rescuing. You are trying to save areas and see if there's any survivors and all that stuff, but, you know, usually so far these areas are abandoned, and therefore it feels more vacant again, and therefore it's just about you trying to escape and get back out. So, really cool concept. I like this a lot so far. I am liking the characters so far. I didn't know how I felt about it at first, but I do feel like I am liking it rather than not liking it. The story is very promising. I don't necessarily know how the story is going to proceed, because I'm assuming that these campaigns here are from the chronological order perspective, where it's going to be Evansburg and then Blue Dog and etc. etc. But so far, the story is really great and pretty good so far. I really overall like it. The next thing that I want to go over is going to end up being the survivors. The survivors this time around were really, really fun. In the beta, they were a lot more detailed, I would say, more personality driven rather than just being all battle chatter, because it's basically what they were in the alpha, was a lot of battle chatter. No real personality, no shine. They were just like, cover me reloading. Maybe they would end up saying some remark here or there. I mean, I even joked around back in the day about saying that pretty much the only story narrative we got from the alpha was learning about Hoffman's daddy issues. But in the beta, that wasn't really the case. In fact, the beta was actually really plentiful with voice lines and banter and all that stuff. There was a lot of character moments where I'm like, oh yeah, this is a really set of cool character dialogue. And sometimes it was like dark, sometimes it was positive, sometimes it was silly, sometimes it was serious. But overall, that was good. It was nice to have that variety. Like, the characters all have a nice similarity to each other, but they also have a lot of differences. I enjoy the dynamic between certain character dialogue for like the sake of what's going on in the map. I enjoy it for the sake of like just more of like what's going on back at home, like with their personal lives. And overall, in general, these characters fit really well. I was really worried about the idea of brand new characters to a certain degree because it's just been so long. But however, though, they're all great. I like the original four once again because they now have more dialogue, and then with the new character, Mom, I think she's really fun. I really enjoy playing as her, not only just because of her, like, proficiencies, because she is, got stats and everything. There's no just cosmetic appeal now. Overall, I just like enjoy their dialogue. The characters get along in such ways that I feel like that I am these characters interacting with each other. It's a lot of fun, and I would definitely love to play all of them. In fact, I've noticed with this game I play all of them, despite the fact that some of them are better than others statistically, which is good, because if you want to play a character, you don't have to worry then about having a certain one because of a meta, which luckily I didn't manage to run into a lot. There was very little instances where I was like, okay, this guy left because I picked his character, or okay, this guy is salty because I'm not playing a certain character. In fact, I don't even think I had that last one. I never saw anyone actually say that, to get off a certain character. But maybe that's just only because of the fact that there is 5 characters and they're all pretty good. So the fact that there's a 1 character difference really doesn't make much. But however, though, we'll have to wait and see when Carly, Jim, and Doc eventually get added in, and then there's going to be 8, which means that you can have a full entire squad difference. We'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, right now, survivors, both for their character traits and also for their character abilities, really solid so far, and I like them a lot. The next thing I want to go over is going to be the guns. The guns and the weapons in this game are really, really well done. Turtle Rock, I want to just once again point out that you're doing a great job so far. You have done a really, really good job on the beta, and you've done a really good job on just overall the improvements of the game. I very much respect you for doing that initial delay that you did decide to do, because if the game released like this with just a little bit more content, it would have been in really rough shape. There was a lot of gun variety. A lot of gun variety. You had so many different SMGs, assault rifles, light machine guns, sniper rifles, shotguns, pistols, melee weapons, equipment, and I enjoyed using it all. I would literally pick up anything just for the sake of picking it up sometimes. Not because it was necessarily good, but just because I wanted to mess around. Every gun felt good. And I mean that, like, every gun felt good. Some guns back in the alpha, like most notably, I think there was like one assault rifle, like an M14. Some guns didn't do good in the alpha, but in the beta, they all felt great. They didn't have like any crazy thing that made me like, wow, oh my god, this is, so good or so bad. I really did enjoy every gun. And the attachments and the way that they handle the attachments is really cool too, because it's very creative. I love how I can put like a sniper scope on an SMG, or how I can put like these mix mash of attachments to basically make a gun custom fit for me and be able to make it my gun. And I know eventually they're going to make it so that way you can end up like adding in like character skins and like camos, and so it'll be able to be more personalized later on in the game's life. But right now, like with all the different customizable attachments, gear, characters, all that stuff, it really is great, especially the guns, man. I love how that I can like make my guns feel like they're getting stronger, even in funny ways. Like I said, with the sniper scope being on guns that shouldn't have one as an example, I enjoy the fact that I can make goofy builds, and it's my choice. The only thing I am just a little bit picky about, though, is I really do hope that by the time that the game finally releases, that you can actually remove attachments without having to buy them, or if you can carry them over to a different gun. Because, like, for example, if I customize a gun, but then there's a slightly better gun, or like a more favorite gun of mine, I want to be able to, if it's within the same gun class, be able to bring over those attachments. Like who says I can't bring over my suppressor or my extended mags to my AK from my M14 or from my M4A1? It just doesn't make any sense to me, especially since there's so much variety where I could put like sniper scopes. That's an example. That's a sniper attachment on an AR, so why couldn't I theoretically just bring over any attachment? it would just be nice. So please be able to make it where I can bring over the attachments that I want to other guns rather than just having to start from scratch. That would be fan-freaking-tastic, please. Thank you. Now, the next thing that's going to be coming up here that you may be shocked to see is actually the card system. The card system is a lot better in the beta than it was in the alpha. In the alpha, it was just kind of like all there, and you really didn't know what you were getting into. It felt a little bit overwhelming. You just picked whatever card you really wanted. Now, in the beta, they made it a lot more understandable and clear. You end up having the cards separated now between the single player or just campaign, and then you have the ones for versus. Now, some cards can be available in both. Some are exclusive to certain game modes, which also does help. And they also have different like abilities or like values depending on which game mode you bring over the cards that are in both modes. And you really gotta think about how you want to make a deck, because some decks are not going to be perfect for every single scenario. But however, though, in my humble opinion, I did just run one deck all the time for both because I did have my favorite cards. But you can unlock cards through the supply stream. And the supply stream is kind of like basically like a mini battle pass where it's just through earned credits. But since you don't have every single card now available to you at your disposal, you have to earn and rank them up. And so until you get a better card, you're just going to only have the ones that you got. I'm really not going to end up making another deck just for a one card difference. I feel like I'll have to have a lot more cards. But the cards are a lot more understandable and enjoyable now. And they're not overwhelming anymore. And they're not really something I'm worried about. Unless they end up deciding to eventually, like let's say, make the cards a lot more convoluted again. Or rather, make it so that way they're like less explained. Or if they just even monetize them, that would be the worst case scenario. But as long as the cards are free, cosmetic, only, you don't have to worry about anything. And like as long as it's like earnable through the supply stream where you can just play the game naturally and not having to buy, that'd be great. The cards overall right now are doing really, really well for themselves. The corruption cards are a little bit more iffy, and I'm gonna have to get into that a little bit later for a separate point. But the base cards, the ones that are meant for you, the player, are a lot better than they were in the alpha, and I think they're doing just fine. I think they're a welcome addition to the game, and I'm very much open to the new changes. I'm very much open to all the new stuff they've added into this series, because Left 4 Dead, even though it was a good game, it was an old game, and I am looking forward to Back 4 Blood with all the new stuff, with all the stuff that I previously have listed in just the last few moments here, and one of them is being the cards. Alright, the next one that I'm going to be getting over into here is going to end up being the social space. The social space, in my humble opinion, was very well done. Now, there is some room for improvement, obviously. It was not perfect. It did have moments of lag. It did have moments of, DCing issues. But the Fort Hope itself was actually really good. People could get into it quite easily if they were in my party. And it was really fun to just mess around the firing range. I also found out recently that technically one of my requests did get fulfilled. I may have just not noticed it right away, where you can actually 1v1 your group. You can go into the firing range and kill each other. So if you want to, you can treat the firing range kind of like a mini 1v1 battle royale, which is really cool. And you can do things like quickscoping and trick shotting and all that stuff. It's really quite enjoyable. I just wish it was bigger. I really wish that it could also hold up more than just your party. I think it would be kind of cool if you could have just random players just thrown in there. I mean, for the current size right now, you could easily fit like 20 or 25. I mean, even like a couple of groups. Like, who says we can't have something like 24, which is like an additional few squads? Because, squads go up to 4. It would be just nice if you could just be able to have the ability to just have random players, just so that way you could talk to them with like proximity chats. Or you could 1v1 them yourselves, be able to make new friends that way. Or show off all your cool cosmetics. It's always nice to be able to show off your cosmetics. Why not, show off, hey, this is my brand new skin that I got for getting tier 100 in the battle pass. Isn't this cool? And then you can, be able to socialize about it. It would just be fun to do that. I really hope that they expand the size of it. I hope that they expand the player limit of it, because it would just make the game a lot more fun, in my opinion, because Fort Hope is very promising. But the social space, unless you have your friends, it does feel kind of less social and it's more empty. But I understand they're just trying to make it so that way the game doesn't lag. Maybe at the full release they'll end up making it where you can have more people. But in the meantime, it was just so far just you and your team. But however, though, I am cool with that. But it was, for the most part, really solid. Alright, now for another good thing, and this is one of my favorite things, is cross-play and cross-gen play. The crossplay in this game was handled extremely well. They made it very easily, like, accessible to the player. It was painless, it was very easy, and just fun to even do. Because all you gotta do is you just gotta be like, oh, hey, you know, you wanna play with me? Okay, boop, boop, boop. You know, just type in the username, you add people, and then you have a Back for Blood friends list now, so that way you know who your crossplay buddies are, which is sweet. And then all you gotta do is just be like, hey, I'm gonna invite Gary, or hey, I'm gonna invite Joe. And then boom, they're in your lobby. It's really straightforward. The way that they have it is that you have a Back for Blood friends list, and all you gotta do is just when you first launch the game, you make a name for it. And then when your friends want to look you up, all you gotta do is just give them that name that you typed in, and then when they look it up, you just add that account. And then through the Back for Blood friends list, you invite them that way, and you get a little pop-up on screen. You just accept it, and then boom, there you go. Now you're in each other's lobbies. No weird hashtag number combo thing. It's just very, 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 very simplistic, and it doesn't have to make you jump through hoops, and it's just so nice to be able to do that, because not only is crossplay good for the game, for the fact that it's just going to allow you to be able to hang out with your buddies, but also just keep the game alive for the player base, because with this game being on Xbox One, PS4, Series X, PS5, and Epic Games and Steam, it's just going to make it so that way, even if the game does end up struggling at points, also maybe like, for example, with like when the Season Pass comes into the play, because then you have to worry about people having DLC and not having DLC. With at least crossplay being a thing, it will make the game a lot more better for the sake of lobbies. And if the game does dwindle a little bit over the years, that's fine. That's to be expected. But as long as the game has a happy, healthy player base for a foreseeable future, I am very happy with that. So thank you, Turtle Rock, for adding it in the first place. I know you didn't have to. It's just become a staple, and I know that it was just kind of thrown at you in maybe like the last like year or two of development, because it's just become like the standard. But I appreciate it, and I'm glad it's here rather than it's not being here. The next thing that I want to go over is the maps. The maps so far in the game, with the only two that we have, were really well done. I enjoyed seeing Evansburg again, although now it's called the Devil's Return, but I will probably just call it Evansburg, or probably just, interchange the word. But however, though, Evansburg and Blue Dog, the new map, was really, really fun to play on. It was very good to be able to play the old map again, because it really didn't change too much, and I did like it the way it was. They just patched some glitches here and there and made it a lot easier to be able to understand. And also with Blue Dog, is that Blue Dog was a really nice welcomed addition. Blue Dog didn't really catch my interest as much as Evansburg. I think that I like Evansburg more. But Blue Dog is not a bad map by any means. It had a lot of fun creative events, and it made it really a unique map. I do look forward to playing on Blue Dog, and even though it was only one of two maps, I played them both pretty equally. I did enjoy them quite a lot. Now, Blue Dog, like I said, I enjoyed it less, but that doesn't mean that's a bad map. It's not a hard rain, it's not a crash course, it's not like I can't play the map. There was moments, though, where, like, let's say the scenario events were kind of hard to understand because it didn't really make it clear where you needed to go. But if you eventually do get the hang of it, you do end up getting truly the hang of it. It's not like something you lose, it's kind of like riding a bike. But I do think that eventually it's going to have a problem where maybe like it's not so self-explanatory to players. But if anything, hopefully tutorials and stuff like that may clear things up. Because when you do know what you're doing, you do know what you're doing. But Blue Dog was a little bit confusing and kind of tedious at certain points with certain scenario events, such as the third chapter. In my humble opinion, there was way too many scenario events back to back to back to back. It's like they couldn't make up their mind. But overall, for what they were, the maps are solid. Because the PvE is going to be the biggest thing for me about this game. It's probably going to be the biggest thing for a lot of us. And as long as the maps are good, I'm going to be much more reassured. Because if the maps suck, which I really hope that the rest of them don't suck, then we're going to have a problem. But so far, really, really good. If there's going to be a decent majority of the maps being like this, then I'm happy with that. I hope, though, that even if there is a air quote bad map, that they're at least willing to change it, because this is a much more in-depth game. They have the ability, the standards now to change things, so if a map does suck, hopefully they will overhaul it. But yeah, that's just my humble opinion, and that is going to be my verdict on the maps. Let me know what yours was, guys. The next thing that I want to go over is I want to go over the supply stream, because the supply stream was something that I really underestimated how good I can see it being as. It's like a mini battle pass or foreshadowing of one. Because right now within the game, you end up earning cards. You can end up earning more cards. They're not just given to you by getting them from these supply streams. Now, the way that you do this is that you play the game, you get like these Back for Blood currency points, and when you earn these points throughout playing the game, you redeem them for items within the supply stream. There's usually sets of 3 with like 9 items. You can get cosmetics like calling cards, emblems, and then sometimes playing cards. Now, with these items that you can get in here, these they're not really that expensive. They're actually quite cheap. A couple of games can get you 1 supply stream very easily. And a couple dozen games can get you the whole entire set of those 3 also very easily. And they don't feel annoying, they don't feel tedious, they don't feel like you're not earning enough credits to be able to earn them quick enough. And it also doesn't feel like what you're earning in there is bad. I enjoy all the art, I enjoy the cards that you can get in the game, and it makes the game feel more grind heavy, because now that there's a reason to play the game, it makes it where I want to get on the game. If a game doesn't have a grinding incentive and it's just kind of just play to play, yeah, that's nice. But I do want to work and get my own personal challenges for myself on the game, and one of that things, could be is like earning certain things rather than just giving them to me directly. Of course, I would like to have some things given to me directly, but earning the cards through supply stream or like a mini in-game battle pass is cool. I can only presume that they will have a actual battle pass later down the line, or at least an in-game store for direct purchases. But so far, so good. I do enjoy it, and I think that they can improve it a lot. I obviously would figure that they will probably tweak it as the game will eventually go on. But for right now, it's really good. I enjoy it a lot. The second thing I also want to go over, by the way, that's very similar to that, is that I do want to talk about so far the vibe of like cosmetics and also just the personalization of the game. We did kind of get a peek at the personalization within the game right away with the beta. There was a personalization tab, and so far all it really had in there was calling cards and then also emblems. You can get sprays in the game, which is nice. And I do know eventually you will be able to get weapon skins and camos and character skins and all that stuff. But so far, from what I can see, there wasn't any red flags with the personalization. There was nothing that, like a keyword. There was no keyword that was like, a red flag. There was nothing in there that I was really suspicious about. There was nothing in the beta that really made me be like, oh yeah, I really hope this isn't in the full launch of the game. The cosmetics, or just the way that right now they're currently handling microtransactions, seems really fair. As far as I'm aware, I don't know if they're going to end up adding any DLC guns or any DLC characters after, Doc and Jim and Carly from the launch. I can only presume they will, and if they do, I do hope that they are free. But so far, there's nothing like an indicator being like, oh, hey, yeah, you're going to have to pay for these. It looks more like that the reason why they had things like the supply stream was to reassure us of the fact that you're probably going to be earning a majority of this stuff, which is nice. So I very much am happy with that, and thank you, Turtle Rock. Now, keep in mind, if I end up having more bad stuff on my list here, it doesn't mean that the game is inherently more bad than it is good. It just means that these are things that do need to be changed about the game for it to be a full product at launch, in my opinion, that's good. And when it comes to anything I do list, keep in mind is that I'm not doing this to bash. I don't want this to be a hate video where I'm saying like, oh, Turtle Rock, you suck, you gotta fix this, do this, that, and the other, like barking them, around and bossing at them. I don't want that to be this type of video. The idea is that this is going to be, once again, constructive criticism from a fan of this series. I just want to see the game be the best it can be. So keep that in mind when I'm mentioning these points. But however, though, I am going to be very blunt and very honest. Alright, so let's get in with our very first thing. The very first thing that I really didn't like about the beta is I really didn't like how much that my computer overall was just stressing out. And by this I mean I'm talking about hardware here. So I have yet to play the game on anything else other than my gaming PC. I have a tower. My tower is pretty decent. It's not the best computer in the world. It's not like it's got like a a crazy graphics card with a crazy GPU and CPU. But I have a decent $800 pre-built computer with even some modified parts such as RAM. I got 16 gigs. I got some pretty decent stuff. I got a pretty solid graphics card. I got an Intel computer. I got an i9 processor, stuff like that. I got some pretty decent stuff in this bad boy. Now, the problem is, though, is that from my experience, the game really all of a sudden just decided to be very demanding. And this is the only game other than Call of Duty that has done this to me. Now, I understand what the specs are. I understand that they say that you should have these things for the requirements in order to run this game. I get that, and I do. But the game had a really bad problem with running programs simultaneously. I would have a lot of lag spikes, but it was especially bad if I had anything else open, such as when I was streaming or recording. I want to be able to stream and record this game. I really, really, really do. But so far, the only way I've managed to be able to do it is to run my game at absolutely the lowest settings, and even lower my my recording software settings a little bit, such as FPS and stuff like that. And it really dampers the game for me. And even then, it still spikes occasionally, although be it it's not spiking as often. But I don't like the idea of having to run the game at the lowest of everything just to be able to play it. Because keep in mind is that I want to be able to run the game at low settings to make it so that way the game runs smoothly. Yes, I rather would have the game run smoothly instead of looking as pretty. But I do, in my mind, look forward to being able to play this game as a next generation version of the Left 4 Dead series, or like a spiritual successor. I don't want the game to look like it's from the 2009 era. I don't want it to look worse than the 2009 era. I want to be able to see that nice 1080, maybe potentially 4K crisp blood or guts or just gunfire on the screen, and I want to be able to feel immersed. And I can only do that if I'm running the game without anything in the background. I can't stream this or record this without frame drops, and therefore I have to run it at the lowest of everything. So I don't know what happened really from the alpha to the beta, because I didn't have this issue in the alpha, but I really do hope that they fix this in the beta. More rather, I really hope that they fix this in the transition from the beta to the full launch, rather. And that's because if the game at launch is going to have these same issues, I can only imagine it getting worse as the game, gets older, because they're going to add in more content, and there's going to be more stuff for the game to just process overall. So if I'm going to end up having a game that's already struggling this much to be able to run on my computer, I can't imagine after like the first couple DLCs, where it's like, oh yeah, hey, now this game is like several hundreds of gigabytes. Good luck. I don't want that to happen. I mean, computers, luckily, you can scale things down or up depending on what your computer can handle. Consoles, it's within the limit of the actual console itself. I have yet to play this on last gen, or in this case the PS4 and the Xbox One, even though I own those and I know the beta was free. But I really, really don't know how good this game is going to be long-term wise for stability. I really do hope that the game does manage to stay stable, because I don't want it to be a thing where the game's just getting weaker over the years as the game's getting updated. So Turtle Rock, without dampering the graphics too much, if you could please figure out a way to make the game run smoother, easier, less laggy, that would be a lot better, rather, in my opinion, than having it where the game looks pretty. I rather would have the game look a little bit potentially more washed out, so that way I can run the game in a higher FPS, or maybe have it where eventually I can be able to run it without having to just worry about having only one program in the background, or no programs in the background. I want to be able to have it where I can have this game at least on medium or normal settings, and have Discord and streaming going on. I want to be able to stream the game at average graphics. Average is okay with me, but stream it and record it at average graphics, or maybe even potentially more than average, but better than average, and then be able to have things like Discord and stuff like that. That's something that I think is fair, and I think it's something that's obtainable with my PC, but I'm very worried about things like last generation consoles in general, and all that stuff. So Turtle Rock, I don't know what really changed, but if you can make the game less graphically demanding, or just less demanding in general on hardware, that would be really, really big. The next thing I want to get into is lag. This game had a lot of lag in it. I didn't necessarily have a problem with connecting to servers, but I did notice a very, very big amount of times where people would just either rage quit or just disconnect from lobbies. It might be a fair mixture of both. It probably was a mixture of rage quit and also disconnect, and not necessarily just on you guys. But I do have a problem with the fact that when people do leave, regardless of if it was intentional or not, that the lobby just never fills. So I would really recommend that if you're going to keep it so that way people can't join session in progress, to make it so that way the game is much more stable, or there's much more of an incentive. Because I would have it where sometimes that the game, even if we didn't necessarily drop, the game would just freeze and stutter and lag. And without an FPS counter, I could just tell that I'm dipping above like, 30 to like 40 frames. And that's okay every now and again, but for how consistent it really wasn't good. If I'm going to 60 to 30, there's a noticeable difference there. And sometimes it was even worse. Sometimes it would go down to 20 or 10. And that's not good. That's really bad. That's where you can start noticing like things as if it's like a old viewfinder and it looks like solid images rather than a smooth video. So yes, once again, please just work on the game. I know you can do a Turtle Rock, but if you can't, it's gonna damper the game. We really need to make sure that this lag situation is sorted out, because when you can't connect people to the servers, that's not good. Alright, now here is probably one of my biggest complaints about the whole entire beta, and that is going to end up being the progression system. Now, don't end up confusing this for like the vendor or like, your sense of character progression as you, the player, are growing. That's completely fine. It's more rather the progression of the game and the game director. So right now, the game feels very repetitive. The game doesn't really feel very free or like random anymore. It feels very pattern-based, and the problem with that is that it loses the novelty that Left 4 Dead had. Left 4 Dead really thrived off of the director, where it made it so that way the game was ever-changing, so that way your game experience was different every single time. Depending on how well you're doing, you can end up having it where a tank will spawn it out of nowhere, or a witch will spawn it out of nowhere, or maybe you'll get a gun that you weren't expecting, or maybe all of a sudden it's going to be a lot harder to get to the safe room because now you got swarms of zombies coming at you for no reason. And the main reason about why this is a issue for me is because I get bored. I enjoy the game when it does end up feeling very fresh and I haven't played in a while. Like if I played it like all day in one day, and then I came back to it the next day, I feel refreshed and I feel good. But like I feel like, let's say I'm playing like for a couple hours, like 3 or 4 hours on my stream, and then I don't take a break, and like I continue to play with, like, let's say my friends, I kind of already am starting to get bored. After like 3 or 4 hours a day, I just get bored. And it's because of the fact that the game is repetitive. I understand there's only like 2 maps. I understand there's only just, one other mode versus after this. But the problem is with the game right now is that it's way too predictable. With things like such as the ogre boss fight, that is a predictable fight every single time. Another thing that's predictable is that that you're going to get the little vendor every single time during the finale or the transition to another chapter, rather. And so you're going to get a break, and you're going to be able to like progress throughout stuff, but it's not random anymore in the safe room. You just kind of like build up with whatever you want. You kind of build up from what you found out in the previous chapter, which I guess is a sense of randomness. But when you do finally find that one gun or item you want, you're more likely to not switch because of the fact that the vendor is very strict and the attachments are very strict. Right now, you can't interchange attachments, which I don't know why. I find that stupid. You should be able to bring over attachments so that way you do have gun variety. But right now, if you end up having a certain gun, and regardless if you like it or not, if it's just upgrade, you should just keep it, because trying to switch between weapons like that without being able to like bring over the attachments basically means you're starting over. And you really struggle when you have a gun with no attachments. The attachments make the guns in this game. You can get by without them. But if you don't want to do that, you kind of have to. It's just kind of a too bad thing. And so right now I'm in the situation where it's like, okay, I have a good gun that I really like, but now I'm bored of it. Maybe I would like to use a shotgun rather than my AK-47. Well, too bad, John. You can't bring over your basic attachments. And yeah, I understand all the attachments aren't going to carry over, but I can't switch my red dot sight. I can't switch over my laser sight. Like, the most basic of interchangeable attachments, like, I have to be able to find those out in the open for it to count. I mean, like, come on, man, that's just stupid. And so there's no reason for me to switch, which therefore means now I'm kind of stuck with a gun that I don't even exactly want anymore when I know I can change on the fly. And even when I do change, I am set back now. So what I recommend is that you make it so that way the vendor, at least at the very least the vendor, even if you can't do it on your person, to be able to make it so where you can bring over attachments from guns to guns, so that way you can be able to switch the guns by your choice in case you do happen to, like, let's say, find a better gun. You might like the AK, but what if you like the M4 better? but you don't want to have the M4 be naked and have it where it's like technically weaker until you find a possible attachment out in the wild. But why do that when you have a gold and everything on your AK? You know what I mean here? Like, it's just kind of unnecessarily tedious. And the map doesn't really feel different. It just kind of feels repetitive. And so after a while, it's just basic campaigns. Like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do pretty much every single time within the means of the game. And once I get what I need, even if I didn't want it anymore, because of the fact that if I didn't keep what I already got going for me, that I'm basically putting myself at a disadvantage or a setback, the game feels really, really repetitive. I know there's going to be a certain amount of chapters with a certain set of boss fights at certain periods of time, and once I get the guns with the attachments I want, there's no reason to switch, and then I have the finale. And that's it. It's very easy to get in the habit. Now, yes, there is a good factor to that. You get used to a map, you can end up getting good at it. But the director really needs to be improved. I understand that they'll release more Infected later on, and there's going to be more maps with more bosses. And a couple of preset events are okay. They even did that in Left 4 Dead. But something about the game right now just feels boring, and I feel like it's on the game director. Maybe make it so that way there's more to loot. Maybe make it so that way that there is more absence of certain types of special infected, or more certain types of special infected. Maybe make it so that way instead of pre-set, like, because I've noticed that, like, certain areas, like toolkit rooms, there's like 3 in a chapter, and there's a chance of them that being one location or another, and that's fine, but I know it's going to be one of those 2, 3, but why not make it like, 5 or 10 rooms? Then there's a lot more variety, because eventually at process elimination, I will get to that room because it's on my destination. But maybe it might even be cool if there just was none throughout that whole entire chapter at all. Or maybe there's double or quadruple on certain chapters, Maybe make it a little bit more variety-based rather than just within the means of the chapter. Because I feel like what they're doing is that instead of making the director adapt on the fly, they're making it adapt within the chapter. Like, I think they decide on the chapter and how difficult it's going to be like a chapter ago. And that's worrying me. The game definitely feels a lot of repetitiveness, and I feel like that's on the director. So director really needs to be improved, in my humble opinion. Turtle Rock, I think you know what you gotta do to fix it. Now the next thing, this is going to be my last one before we get on to the downright ugly, is the difficulty of the game. The difficulty of the game, it's kind of funny. Back in the alpha showed that the game was very, very difficult to beat. It was very, very hard and tedious to get through just any of the basics of modes. Like, even the easiest mode felt like advanced mode from Left 4 Dead. It was really difficult to proceed. Now, in the beta, they made it so that way the survivor mode, or the very easiest mode, is really easy. But that contributes to one of my points of the boredom, because there is almost kind of like a little bit of too easiness of the game mode here. Like, you can't friendly fire, which is most notable, like, so there's no real threat to worrying about shooting each other. And also as well, you just happen to have like little to no special infected in the easiest mode. I don't see them. In the easiest mode, there is no snitch, so that's one of the special effects that's already like limited in the game gone. The ogre is still there, and he is killable now, which is cool. But now you can just kill him instantly, and he's not really a threat. He goes from being really big threat to no threat really at all. And then the other special infected just don't really show up. I might get a tall boy every now and again, but then now it just feels like it's just basic zombies. Then on the contrary, the veteran mode and the nightmare mode, which are the two difficult modes, which are also, by the way, extremely difficult in comparison to the easiest mode, they're too hard. I feel like that veteran is still too difficult in this game, and nightmare is just flat out ridiculous. I still have no idea how I beat Nightmare's finale back in the alpha. That will forever be just something that will just be a giant achievement in my mind. But the main thing that I'm trying to get at here is that the game is either way too easy or way too difficult. There needs to be a game mode in the middle. So either what you need to do is you need to scale up the easy mode or the survivor mode and scale down veteran and nightmare mode, or, and this would probably be the better idea, bring back normal and advanced mode from Left 4 Dead and make it so that way you have the Back 4 Blood survival Survivor Easy mode. That can be the normal, easiest game mode. That's fine. But bring back normal and advanced mode from Left 4 Dead with like friendly fire and certain amounts of special infected per spawn, stuff like that. And then you can end up having, your normal veteran mode, because veteran's kind of like expert. And then you can end up having Nightmare be like a 5th bonus mode, where it's like, it can stay that difficult, I guess. Maybe scale down just a little bit more. Maybe like ease up on the friendly fire percentage. That would be a big one. Maybe make it like half rather than 65. And make it so that way, that's like the crazy mode. That's like the game mode that if you play with your buddies, you can end up getting a giant achievement together. That's a goal to complete. Or, if you want to, you can just have that be the joke mode. That can be the impossible mode, where like very little teams complete it, and that's a challenge that you end up setting up for your community. That's cool with me. But that is going to be the case, and you need to have something in between, because I don't want to either be bored or frustrated. That's what I end up running into a lot, is either bored or frustrated. So that's going to be my opinions on the difficulties, and now we're going to be moving on to the downright ugly. So for the downright ugly of the Back 4 Blood beta, there is only 2 things in here. Let's talk about them. So the very first thing, this is going to end up being the Special Infected. These Special Infected in this game have a massive problem, and that's that there's 2 important things right now that need to be mentioned right away. And that they're one of the main problems with the difficulty of the game. It's way too easy or hard. And also, as well, in addition to that, they have really, really nothing going for them. They're very generic and boring. Drifter explained this best back in his beta review, because he did play the Back 4 Blood beta. And he pointed out how that the survivors had like a little bit of like pizzazz to them, but not really the Special Infected. The Special Infected don't really feel as memorable as the Left 4 Dead versions of themselves. The Tall Boy, it doesn't really feel like a Charger. The Hawker doesn't really feel like a Hunter. The Wretch doesn't really feel like a Boomer. The Left 4 Dead Special Infected, the reason why they were so iconic is because they were almost human-like. The Witch, like, with the crying and the depression, made her, like, self-aware. The Tank being very angry and vigorous and relentless and trying to always kill you to the ends of the earth. The Jockey with this psychotic, like, psychopathic laugh, like, almost made him human. And the problem is with this game, Back 4 Blood, they're all just worm-possessed zombie vessels, and they're nothing really special about them. I recommended in a video recently how that they should end up getting some custom music, how Left 4 Dead used to have some, but they have yet to really add. And I know that there's some kind of like sound effects here and there with like the ogre and all that stuff, but it's really not the same. I feel like they need to end up putting a lot more emphasis and a lot more variety into them, because the Special Infected all kind of look like just generic worm-possessed zombie vessel dudes. I enjoyed how that the Charger weared overalls. I enjoyed how that the Boomer was like a stereotypical fat dude. I enjoyed how the Jockey looked like a weird like alcoholic possessive psychopath. it was funny. It made them more human, and I don't get that with the Back 4 Blood Special Infected. They're boring. They're cool. They're definitely unique, and I like the new take on them. They're new / old to a certain degree, but it's like they're this weird wishy-washy thing. It's like they're trying to be the old Special Infected, but they can't do the copyright, and they're also trying to be new in that sense too as well, because it's been so long. It's like a new version of it, like a new spin-off, and it just makes it where it's like they're not old enough to really be nostalgic, and they're not new enough to be really new. They kind of feel like parodies or interpretations rather than actual new or improved versions of the old originals. And that makes the Special Infected in a spot right now where they're just there. I don't really feel like I'm excited to use them, and I don't like really using them in verses. They're not really fun. I don't really expect anything when I'm like... I don't get chills down my spine when I see a Tall Boy. The thing that I see when I see a Tall Boy is like, oh, here we go, but like more like a frustration thing, I feel that the beta really definitely thrived off of the characters and their personality, but now we need to do that for the Special Infected. So Turtle Rock, either A, gotta give them some music. You gotta give them some like really iconic music, so that way there's at least like a like almost like a made up identity in our heads about how intimidating or cool or freaky they are. And also maybe what you can do is maybe improve their looks a little bit. I think that the special infected really could use maybe like a different look, kind of amongst each other. They all just kind of look the same, like tumor, like mutated maybe slightly in length, maybe an extra ligament here or there, just zombie worm thing. And that's just boring. I think that they should change, and I think that they could use an overhaul, and maybe make it so that way that they're not as complicated or frustrating, because I'm not attaching them based off of their personality. I'm attaching them based off of the difficulty of them. They're either very easy or hard, which kind of goes back to the previous thing I was mentioning about the difficulty thing. A major part about the difficulty is the special infected right now in the game and the way that they're handled. I don't like going up against 7 tall boys all at once, because right now their hitbox is extremely hard to hit, and they're still pretty damn strong. And I feel like that they need to be scaled back a little bit. That's just me, though. I think more rather what I'm asking is personality at the end of the day, and maybe I'll come to learn to appreciate them. But that's just something that I feel like is going to be a thing maybe over time. I do like the idea that what they were trying to do with them, but it's a situation where it's like I said, it's too old to end up being new, but it's not old enough that it feels nostalgic. So that's a main crucial thing for me. I hope that they nerf them a little bit in the survival mode, because it's connected to the difficulty for me. And I do also hope that they make it so that way they have more personality with them. Alrighty guys, and then this is going to end up being my very last thing, and this is going to end up being the versus mode. Versus mode is going in the downright ugly because it is downright trash. And Turtle Rock, I don't say that once again to be mean. It is just the 100% truth, and I want to see the game improve, so I gotta be honest. The beta for the versus mode was 100% trash. Versus, I wanted to give it a chance. I wanted to give the new interpretation of it a chance, where it's like, hey, you know what? We're going to make it so that way instead of campaign versus, we're going to make it so that way we have it where these like custom sandbox maps are here. And you have to try to survive as long as you can, and you got to try to be able to survive against these teams with all these upgrades, special infected that they make, and all that goodies, and all that stuff. Fine. It's not what I want, but I'll give it a chance. And it's just not good. I tried it every single day throughout the whole entire beta, and I don't like it no matter how many times I play. That, and also as well, is that it's showing right now also through the player base. Because right now, the versus mode, even if it was, like, okay, people can't even play it. Lobbies just don't work. People rage quit or DC all the time. That's my biggest issue about versus right there. In fact, actually, when it comes to versus, not only is it the versus itself, but it's just also the goddamn people. Every goddamn time I play a game, it is a coin toss whether or not the game is going to be dead on arrival. Like, literally, I mean that. Like, I load into a survival, like, I keep calling it survival, there's an inside joke I keep telling my friends about that. I'll get into that later. But versus right now, it's really, really bad because it's not versus. It feels like a weird collection of versus from Left 4 Dead, survival from Left 4 Dead, and like a battle royale, because they have like this bug zone thing that collapses in, and eventually will make it so that way you have to go into the center, and that's kind of like battle royale. And then there's a timer, and you gotta like survive rounds, so it's like survival but with versus together, but not like versus survival. It's like it's like this weird battle royale minigame thing. It would be okay as like a mutation mode, but this is supposed to be the flagship versus like the main second game mode. This is gonna be really bad. And I'm thinking that it's showing. I think that people are not only rage quitting because of the fact that, like lobbies already don't feel for them, like, because right now people can't join session in progress and you just get bots or nothing. And in fact, you most of the time don't even really end up having a chance if you end up getting a pair of bots or nobody on your team. You have to have a full squad really for this game to work. It's literally cooperative. It's back 4 blood for a reason. It's an emphasis huge on the 4. Now, albeit, you can clutch with a couple of people on your team. You don't need to have a full team. You don't need to end up being the sweatiest tryhards to be able to end up getting a win. I get that. But the way that the game is paced, the way that the game's entity is formed, it's a cooperative game. It wants you to play with friends. It wants you to at least play with randoms. And if push comes to shove, it wants you to play with bots. But with people leaving and not filling games feel hollow and also frustrating because it's either a squash match, it's a dead game, or just something that just makes the game not fun. I want to have a normal 4v4 game, goddammit. Is that too much to ask? And even when it does go right, and there is a full entire lobby, and I can queue with people, and we have a good match, I don't want to play this more than like 10 minutes. This is just something to do because I want to just try to get gameplay for this beta review. I do not want to play this by the time that the game fully releases. This was just so that way I could give feedback and hope that it would change, actually. That's the reason why I was playing it over the last several weeks. I knew right away as soon as I played it that I didn't like it. And I gave it a chance. I really did get a chance. I wanted to prove myself wrong, but I don't like versus in the Back 4 Blood beta. I'm just sorry, Turtle Rock. It's just trash. You need to go back to your roots and go back to just normal campaign versus. Because if you don't, it's going to kill your game. I'm just going to be 100% honest. If versus sucks and stays this way, Back 4 Blood is going to hurt hard. Because other than the single player, which is doing really good for itself right now, it can definitely still thrive off of the single player. But only briefly, though. Because most games nowadays in 2021 all have at least one flagship multiplayer mode. Look at things such as Fortnite, Apex, Overwatch, Call of Duty. All these games thrive because they have a multiplayer mode. Sure, they have a single player mode. Some of them are only multiplayer, but some do have a single player mode. But the multiplayer is the flagship thing for them, and that's a lot of the time where it's at for a lot of people. People just want to get online with their buddies and kill and just survive and just shoot things. But versus really isn't that in this game. It's just kind of like a weird... It feels very sandbox, like, custom mappy. It feels like a cheap thing that someone made as a mod. And that's not good. If it feels amateur, if it feels like basic like this, we're really going to be in trouble. So Turtle Rock, this is how you fix versus. Like I said before in a previous video, you gotta make it so that way the zombies are in first person like the survivors. Because otherwise it's just not fair and they're gonna wall. You need to make it so that way that there is the cooldowns on a bigger cap, because right now the versus special infected are able to just spam, and it's ridiculous. You also either need to A, make it so that way bots are a lot better, or just in more lobbies more often, because lobbies end up usually being dead. Or you need to make it so that way people can join session in progress. Or you need to make it so that way there is a leaving penalty preventing people from wanting to leave so easily. Because if a leaving penalty is there, maybe hopefully people will stay. If it's a significant one, like a timeout maybe. But if you don't have any of these things and people can just leave left and right and just leave lobbies dead where it's just 2-on-2 or 1-on-1s, it's screwed. It would be 100% screwed. So yeah, guys, that is my personal thoughts on the Back 4 Blood versus mode, and this is going to be my overall review of the Back 4 Blood beta. In my humble opinion, to wrap things up here, I will say this. The Back 4 Blood beta is a massive improvement from the alpha. Very, very massive improvement. It is done extremely well for itself, and I can't actually wait to play this game once again in the release window. I am looking forward to playing this on October the 12th. I once again said this before and I said it again, but I do believe in this game and I do believe it has a chance. I want to give it the benefit of the doubt, but I do want to see this game still last more than a year though. I want this game to thrive for years to come. I hope that eventually it also does have more stuff that is like up its sleeve and surprise me. Maybe mods. Maybe make it so that way there's another cool brand new game mode. Maybe bring back an old classic game mode. Or just fix versus, so that way versus as an old classic coming back. You can, if you want to, you can keep the new version of versus, just have it be like a mutation or like a second variant. Just don't make it the only version of versus, if you know what I mean. Campaign, absolutely solid. Very much looking forward to that. If versus gets tweaked, and then all the other game modes are fine, because the one thing I'm worried about is that I'm worried that because of versus being like a survival versus combo with Battle Royale, that they might not have intent to release other game modes. But as long as versus ends up changing, and as long as single player continues to do good for itself, I think that we're in for a really good game. So yeah, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. I truly hope you guys end up enjoying, and if you did, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe to show your guys' support. If you guys want to financially support the channel, I would definitely really appreciate if you guys could check out my Patreon. It is always linked down below in my YouTube video descriptions. And if you guys could please use supporter creator code BlackNinja797 in all caps in the Fortnite and Epic Games item shops, that'd be very much appreciated, because this video is sponsored by Epic Games here today, my very first sponsor. So shout out to you, Epic. But yeah, guys, this is going to be it. Turtle Rock, I hope that you take these changes and implement them into the game somehow, and be able to make your game for the greater good. I hope you ended up enjoying today's video, guys. And once again, if you enjoyed, please drop a like, comment, subscribe. But I hope you enjoyed another YouTube video for the most unique YouTuber you guys are ever going to see. Thank you for watching, guys, and peace out.